And we're on the air.
All right. I love how you at the beginning go, we're going to push the button. like, like you're going to blow the place up.
Well, there's
So
a start recording button. If I don't press it, we're wasting our
we,
time.
we don't, oh, we're not wasting our time. Just
I
nobody
guess
else
not.
can see this. Nobody else can see this shit show that we have going on. So there.
Exactly.
So, you know what? I'm going to let you start because I know last time I said I got nothing to report and then I came up with a whole bunch of stuff. Well, guess what? This time I even less the report this time than I did last
Okay.
time, and I really mean it this time. So
So
I'm gonna let you start. We're not gonna talk weather or anything. We're gonna dive right into this thing.
sounds good. So I'll allocate 15 minutes for you to report on nothing.
Yeah, I get.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
No, you
right.
can allocate like two. This time you'll see it. You'll go like, oh, you really did nothing. So
Yeah. So my word count is the opposite of what it was last time, 98 words.
oh,
But
okay. So
that is because I've finished adding my metadata. I have individual timelines for all of my characters. And I think I mentioned moons ago, too many moons ago, that I'd printed out what I had up to the ending and done another edit on it. So
yeah.
that's in here. And
Oh, is that
there's
paper? Is that
uh,
paper?
yeah, that's paper. Honest
Oh
to goodness
wow!
paper. Yeah.
Look at you using paper. I'm so proud
Well,
of you. Do you have a pen as well, or
yeah.
do you have
Oh,
some sort of electronic eyesight, a la Superman that kind of drills?
there we
Okay, okay.
go.
I'm just checking. I didn't know if you like stare at it long enough and words appear on the page.
No, well, I'm putting those edits and markups and pen marks back into the document, and of
Okay.
course, changing my mind and everything else. So I'm just getting started at adding that markup, and then I have some more scenes to write, and my uh, individual character timelines have highlighted how uh, flat a couple of my characters are, and so there's
Flat they are. Is that what you said?
yeah there
Okay.
uh, you know uh, um, there's not a lot of depth to a couple of characters that need some depth in order for it to really be a good story. So
Okay. I'm actually adding to your goals as well while we're doing this. You really are. You're crossing the lines, but that's fine. I'm keeping up.
well, it's it's basically going into a developmental edit, right? So there's development to be done.
Okay, developmental edits in the goal as well.
And
But how did you end up with 98 words? Like you just added some words?
yeah,
Is that what you
the
did? Or you
the pen marks in that printed
went through
output
the editing?
are causing me to add and subtract and change words. So I'm, like one scene into that process, and I've net added 98 words.
Okay, all right. And do
So
you know what your current word count is?
my current word count is 79,208.
And do you theoretically have a destination on how long you want it to be, or no?
Well, the
I
target
think
is 80.
I think I mentioned before. Somebody told me that the one of my mystery novels was too long.
Right.
So I had an agent go, oh, that's way too long for that style that
Right.
you're writing. So basically said, get back to me if you can trim it down. So um, maybe it was just on the word count. But do you have a word count that you're looking to hit?
Well, I was targeting 80, um, but the inadequacies in some of my subplots, the characters in there, uh, are telling me that I'm going to go well past 80. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I sort of anticipated that anyway. Where we wind up, I'm uh, less concerned about word count. Um, First off, I'm going to self-publish, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
And second, like you've got precedents like Dune, which is 2,948 pages. I'm just joking, but it's
Yeah.
you got these thick tomes. So I don't think readers in my genre mind, you know, going into the hundreds.
Okay. All right. Got it. So you are literally in the middle of the editing process, or maybe I guess at the beginning of the developmental process.
Yes.
So, all right. So there we go. Um, I did nothing on my editing. At the beginning of the week, I think just after we did our last podcast, which was on the 5th, if memory serves, or so, or the 4th, whatever it was. I have added 1,803 words in one day,
Yeah.
and then that's it. I have not written since that day. I don't know why. I just suddenly stopped. Now, it could be that I am doing my taxes, which is not a it's, is not one of those things that really makes you go, "Ooh, I need to be creative." I guess you do, but I mean, I got to be creative with numbers, not creative with uh, uh, words.
There are hard
So,
limits to how creative you can be when you're doing your taxes.
correct.
Yeah.
So I'm getting those all ready for my accountant and everything. I know I'm late, but I mean, I know I'm not in. Basically, they wrote, "Did you make more income than you did last year?" I'm like, absolutely not. Then you don't have anything to worry
Right.
about. So that was that. So I really, really hope I get back to it this week. I've got to get my shit together, as I have written in my goal. Get shit together. I
All
really,
right.
literally have written that down.
That's officially a
Uh,
goal.
I did. I remember I told you I was part of a writing battle, and I still don't understand how they work.
Uh-huh.
I came in ninth in my house, which is in the top 10, which means your story moves on to
Okay.
battle it out with other stories. I don't understand how it goes. I don't know if it's a bracket thing, or if you go up against another story and they say which story is better, and then I just don't understand. But by the end of the month, I will know how I did
Okay.
completely, like the total thing. Yeah. So that's it. That's really all I have to report. I've got nothing to report. I came in ninth and I wrote 1,803 words in one day, and then I completely stopped, and that was it.
Right. Well, so what are your goals?
Oh, so the goal is get shit together, which was actually the goal.
Right.
Um, uh, I do have a writing competition coming up at the end of the month. Another one of those, 500 word flash fictions. So I obviously that has to get me back into writing mode. I think
Right.
sometimes I just need to get back into writing mode, and sometimes being forced is kind of a way to do it. There is a Readsy competition that's out there, and I really want to participate in it. And the theme that you have to write on is change. And like I'm putting some thought into it, obviously, because it's here in the goals, but I have yet to move forward with it. Um, I'm thinking of either writing something new or modifying a short story into a longer story, because that's what I'm thinking of. One of them can do, because I have a short story that I always thought needed more fat on it.
Uh,
Not fat as in crap.
right.
There is a way to um, get the story better and more full than you can in 1,000 words,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe of adding I don't know, another 2,000 words to that one. And then I right at the bottom I hear have write something, damn it.
Hmm.
So there are my goals for for the next 2 weeks.
So,
So
question: are you procrastinating editing?
I'm procrastinating on everything, it turns out.
Yeah.
So I'm procrastinating in writing. I'm procrastinating on editing. I did get some stuff done that I guess counts but doesn't count for my website. I had a website meeting
Good.
earlier in the month, and we talked about certain pages. I think it's looking pretty good. It's just to the point where now we have to generate some covers for the short stories. And so, you know what? Here's an interesting question for you before we dive into our hook for from last week. But I know we've discussed AI
Yes.
and people. On my website, I'm going to basically give away the short stories. Come and read some short stories.
Yes.
Um, you know, in in essence, give us your email, how to get a short story kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Reader
and
magnet.
for them, we got to create like a cover
Right.
for the story.
Yeah.
And look, for a novel, I think I definitely want a human being involved. But for a short story, what do you think? AI, human being?
You know, the feeling about this is incredibly polarized, right?
Yeah,
Um, so, at the minimum, you need to disclose if you're using AI, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
For the cover, for just the cover,
Yeah.
not for the
But
book, not for the story. Story I wrote, but the cover could be generated by AI just as simply as I could generate it on Canva, let's say.
sure, but you still need to disclose that's what you did,
Yeah,
right? Because there are, it's becoming like a religious thing, right? There are some people
yeah.
who it's like, if you've touched AI, even if you've used Pro Writing Aid, um, then you're tainted, and they don't
Oh,
want to buy your boat, and that's fine. There are, yeah, there are
which is
reasons,
interesting because if you think about it, anybody who wrote on, say, Word Perfect, let's
right?
say, right?
Yeah,
There was always on Word Perfect, or not Word Perfect, or Word. There is an there's been a gentle AI at the back, if you think about it, looking at misspellings, looking
absolutely.
at
Your spell checker
commas.
is an AI algorithm. Yeah,
Correct, but
yeah,
it's just an older one that everybody's just come to accept.
yeah. We shouldn't really get deeply into it, but it's the advent of this generative AI, right?
Yeah,
Where you're creating a book cover, and the philosophy is that algorithm was trained on stuff that was stolen from artists without compensation, and therefore it's morally corrupt. And if you use it, you are, by implication, also morally corrupt, and therefore somebody will not buy your work based on your moral corruptness, right? Which is not a valid, not an invalid line of reasoning, and that if that's your position, you're entitled to it. Um, and then there are other people who
there
are,
is worse moral corruption. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, it's complicated. I don't want to get into the depths of it, but there are more nuanced views, and then there are people who just don't give a damn, right? So um, it becomes a judgment call. But what I think is important is that it's disclosed, right? You
Yeah,
say, I use this, I use this, I use this. Like, I'll probably run my manuscript through Pro Writing Aid, and I'll
yeah,
say, I use this tool, but I used it for analysis. I didn't take text it generated and change the manuscript using that text. I used
correct,
it to identify flaws, which I corrected with my own words.
correct.
Right?
Yeah, that's
You
yeah,
know,
that's how I use Pro Writing Aid. There are
exactly.
various things that they ask me to do, and I'm like, I don't want that.
Precisely.
What I also find about Pro Writing Aid is that half the time it tells me this is a weird sentence, change it,
No,
and just for the sake of it, I go, okay, what would you change it to? And it gives me like three options, and I'm like, that's not even close to what I wanted to say.
exactly. Right. Yeah. It's like I had Grammarly installed for a while, and it kept on saying, "Do you want to make the sentence more boring and generic?" No, no, I don't. Actually, I just want to uninstall this thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's Pro Writing Aid I find very good at certain things. At other things, like if it wants to reword a sentence or a
Right.
paragraph, I find it terrible.
No.
terrible. But it's great for, where you need commas, where you need periods, where you need semicolons, where if your word is misspelled. It sometimes is good if it says, look, you've used this word 3 times in this
Right.
paragraph. Maybe instead of saying wonderful, you could, use audacious or
Right.
fantastic or something different than the
Yeah.
word wonderful or
Yeah.
whatever.
I have my own tool for that one. But what I'm more interested in is, at the beginning of the story, your character had blue eyes. And now in the middle of the story, your character has brown eyes. And it's like, this
Yeah.
is a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I when I ran my story through the analysis, and those are the edits I'm working on now. But as I said, I got to get right back to it. But there were things like, it would go chapter by chapter and tell you, how everything's flowing, and you'd
Right.
realize some chapters it liked just as it is. And I still edited those. I just, because now that I'm editing other things, you're like, well, maybe, maybe I should check for the blue eyes thing. But other things, it would say, look, you're spending too much time in his apartment. It's it's
Right.
taking away from the pace of your story.
Right.
And you're like, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe I take the 3 paragraphs and I turn them into one, and that's where I
Exactly.
find it helpful to
Yeah.
to speed along your story.
Right.
So
Or
that's.
maybe if you're going too fast, to slow down. Right. Like,
But then you know what? There's going to be a human being involved in your editing process at some point,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
because right after you finish that, then you've got to send it to a human being to go. Okay, now I got to make sure I understand it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where AI falls short is it thinks it understands,
Right.
but where it shows me it doesn't understand is when it tries to give me those paragraphs, when it tries to
Right.
manipulate those sentences and paragraphs, and I go, it has no idea what I'm trying to say. Even if I'm set it for, I am a mystery writer, because in pro writing it, you can say I'm writing a novel and I'm writing mystery.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once I've gone through my dev edit cycle, I'm going to hand it to a developmental editor who
a
will
real human being.
tear it apart again, and we'll go through and raise the bar another step, and then I'm going to send it to a copy editor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, human beings
Excuse me.
still have to be involved. I in creative. That's just
Yeah, exactly.
I keep hearing comedians say, yeah, AI can't tell a joke, which is why we'll always have comedians. I believe that the human experience and what the human mind can come up with is probably better than what the AI can generate.
I don't think it. I've been thinking about this, and we're really starting to get off track. I should.
I'll get us back right after you finish.
A lot of invention happens simultaneously. Like, there's two or three people, scientific research groups scattered around the planet, who all go, "Hey, wait, what about this?" within a relatively narrow time frame, and that invention is really sort of just a pattern matching kind of thing, because there's other research that's come along. People have read the research and they've gained a little bit more insight, and then the next most probable idea is just hanging out there. And I really wonder whether or not our AI algorithms are going to be able to do that kind of thing, and how we define invention if that's the case. So, anyway.
Oh, all right. Something else for food for thought.
So for your
So,
goals, back to your goals for a second. You need a editing related goal that's specific.
yeah, I guess you're right. I don't. You know what? How about this? I edit 5 chapters.
All right, there you go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, you're right. I have no. It was just get back to, and
Yep.
it wasn't working for me.
It's another
So
ADD thing. It's
yeah,
a blocker task. You don't want to really do it, even though you want to do it, and so you
yeah.
wind up doing other things, and then you get frustrated, and then that's why you stop writing.
I cleaned the apartment, although you can't tell. So
Well, I see your
But
Raiders tears are still there, so.
oh yeah, nothing has changed there. And the writer's tears are just getting bigger. So um, going on to our hook from last week.
Yeah.
Now that we've I think we breezed through the goals and stuff this week, so that's pretty good.
We did.
Where do you get inspiration and ideas from?
So now we're coming back to AI.
Exactly. Well, are we getting
For
inspiration
me, we
from
are.
AI, or do they just come to us in some other way? Which I think
Well,
becomes an interesting conversation.
this makes my discussion about invention more relevant because I'm sitting here and I'm reading all this stuff about AI algorithms and agents and all that kind of stuff, and there's a sort of a known characteristic of technology systems, which is things that were uh, big machines wind up becoming smaller machines, wind up becoming boards, which wind up becoming chips, right? So,
Yeah.
like the power in this phone is probably about 2,000 times the power in the first machine I ever used, and it occupied an entire floor of a building, right? So, if you apply that reasoning or that trend line, you can think that these big data centers that we have that are doing AI over time will get smaller and more efficient and smaller and more efficient and smaller and more efficient. So the idea is like, well, what if they get small enough that you could implant them into your head, right? What if all this other research about neural connections and all that plays out and you can mount something in a space behind your ear and have neurally connected AI?
I think we'll be dead by then, you and I.
Well, it's
But you
science
never know.
fiction.
Moving quickly.
It's science
But
fiction, so I can make it happen in the next 20 years, right? Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So then that's the idea, and then it's like, okay, what happens then? And like in the particular story I'm working on, there's still this whole thing of class. You can figure that people who are in the upper echelons of class can get better augmentation than the people who are down at the lower levels, and that
yeah.
there's social advantage to having that. And so then it's like, what about a story about some guy who's at one of those lower levels who's trying to find ways to move up in society to become one of these better equipped, more successful, richer people? And what if he makes a moral compromise to get there? What are the implications?
So, is that where you got your inspiration from? Is this the kind
That's
of
that's my story. Yeah.
okay? So that's all right. So that's where you got your inspiration from, was this AI thing, because you're more in the computer world.
Just extrapolating current news. Yeah.
But you were also, and people who have heard the podcast before will know that you are or were as an occupation, you were in the computer world
Absolutely.
in a very large way. So were these things that are always in the back of your mind, even when you were in the computer world, or did it come to you one day in your sleep, or you just read a news article and you made the connection, or
Well, I mean, far too many moons ago, I decided that what I should really be doing is writing stories, right?
yeah,
Creating novels. So it's always, hold on, excuse me. It's always been a case of looking at what's happening in technology. One of my, if you go back and find my LinkedIn profile, it says that my core skill is communicating between different disciplines, right? I can talk to software engineers and find out what's going on with them, and go back to a CFO and explain why what they're talking about makes a decent business case, right? And same with marketing and all that kind of stuff. So that's been sort of core to my career. So I'm always sort of thinking about the interplays between technology and society, right? And as new technologies come along, it's like, okay, what are the implications of that? And is there a story behind that, right?
So your stories are based in the real world or what you actually know. Am I correct on that?
They're
That would be
extrapolations to the real world. Yeah.
okay. So, which brings me to me. I've never murdered anybody.
To the best of your knowledge, John.
Not that I'll admit on camera. You know what I mean? But I mean, I write about people getting killed and shot, and I've never been a police detective, but I've, watched tons, read tons on, true crime and things like that. So, and I'm looking at somebody like Harlan Coben. I believe he's never been a cop. So,
Right.
or a detective, or a sports agent. And I look at somebody like Stephen King. You know, I don't think he had a clown visit him and scare the crap out of him when he was a kid
Right.
and rip the heads off of his childhood friends. I just don't think those have happened. So
Right.
where you're dealing with real world issues and potential, I'm just making shit up as I go along.
Exactly.
So, I get ideas from sitting on the train. I get ideas from just people watching, listening into conversation. You never know who's going to say something really cool on a train or in a mall, or like I was walking through the airport one day and I heard somebody say, "Whose hand luggage is this?" But I missed the word luggage. And that became the basis of a story I started writing in the airport
Right.
about a hand being found. So it was just a simple, whose hand luggage is this? And I just missed the luggage, and I went, whoa. And then my brain went, you missed luggage. So I went, oh, okay, got it. But
Details.
I sat
Details.
down and I wrote, I don't know, 10 chapters in the airport. And that story still sits out there as a potential to finish.
Okay. So,
Um,
how does that germ of an idea flesh out into a story for you?
well, okay. So being a pantser, I just start writing it, right?
Right.
Where you at some point, and I am assuming, have to take real world implications and extrapolate to what could happen in the future.
Right.
I am just, you know, I'm taking a real world potential situation. I am sure that somebody's hand has appeared somewhere, and somebody's gone, well, we need to investigate this. But
Right.
I didn't read it. I didn't hear about that story. Maybe I've seen it in a movie, somebody's hand, Seven, where her head appears in a box. Um, you know, that, all potential, but things like that just come from inside your head, and
Right.
it's just, how does it show how weird we are? Does it show how creative we are? Does it show how bent we are? That's the question. Yours is more, science fiction is creating universes and creating, just alternative, almost everything. Whereas my stories are centered in the real world, but very strange situations that you think, you did what? You killed them how? Where did you come up with that idea?
And where did you come up with the how?
Uh, again, so another story I wrote. Um, my girlfriend and I went to visit a house that she was looking at buying, and um, and so while she was going through this place and looking at it and deciding whether she should or should not, I was looking at the creepy nature of this house. And just outside the window was a pole. Like, it's like they had built a brick wall, probably had used this pole at some point as a stabilizer for the wall, but because it's in Italy, things have fallen down, things have been blown up, it's just a little
Yeah.
town, and the pole was sticking up and it had a sharp edge to it. And I thought, huh, if somebody was pushed from this window,
Right.
they could land on this pole and it would be really super cool. So I turned to Ophelia and I said to her, if you push somebody through this window, they could land on that pole. That's pretty dangerous, but a great story. And she was like, "What? You're not even looking at the house." And when we left, so I hate to say it, I don't know if she watches these, but I let her, get her ire up. And as we left, I said to her, "Here's why that house is not for you." And I went through a list of all the things that I said about the house.
Uh-huh.
And she went, "Oh, you were paying attention." I said, "Yeah, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
was also killing somebody off the roof."
Exactly.
So the how, I don't know. I just suddenly start writing. And I think one of the best um, pieces of advice that I got from like a BBC masterclass or maestro or master, whatever one it was Harlan Coben said, when you're writing, just write, and and it doesn't matter if it's as fanciful or as odd or as weird or way out there of the realm of probability. You can always go back and edit, but if you can make it work, then um, then it's worthwhile that you wrote it. Everything can be taken out in editing, but
Right.
you so be fanciful. Be you know kill somebody in a way that and then find out if it's true later. Phone somebody up and go, "Hey, is this even possible?" And
Right.
sooner or later somebody's gonna go, "It's possible."
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then if you can make it fit, then that's and I think it not just my stories, but it also with yours, right? You have to think in the same
Oh
in the
yeah.
same way.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Is it possible, even if it's this remote? Is it possible? And if it is possible, then it can be put in.
Exactly. And I mean, for me, the technology has to be plausible too. Like it can extend plausibility, right?
Yeah.
But I have a problem with space operas and things like that because they all require faster than light travel to get to some other planet, and there has to be life on the planet or something going on, and
Suspension of belief.
I get stuck on. There is no way that we know to go faster than light. Like we can do little quantum things, quantum coupling and stuff like that, but we can't move things from here to there like that yet. Um, and so I have a hard time with all of those stories, right? And that's why most of my stuff is Earth based and not too distant future, right? Because then I'm not
And
breaking the laws of
yet you
physics.
have a chip being implanted
But
right
that's
back here.
plausible, right? I mean, there's early work in neural connectivity that's coming along. There's obviously AI and big, huge data centers. Uh, there is quantum computing that's showing promise for really high levels of throughput. So it's plausible, right? It's a stretch, but it's not. It's not like that violates the laws of physics,
Yeah,
right?
no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it didn't. I
Yeah.
When you told me about the little chip, I was like, well, I'll be dead for that. But I mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
very,
for sure.
it's very. There's this show on I think it was Apple where the aliens come down and everybody gets the same consciousness except for a handful of people.
Uh,
And they try to bring them on board with the populace conscious. I can't remember what the name of the play the show was, but it's really interesting because everybody gets infected with a consciousness. It's a global consciousness. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing. Everybody, but there are these handful, 2 dozen, 3 dozen people who are immune, and they work. The consciousness is working on the research to try and get these people on board. And the 36 others are trying to figure out how to dismantle the consciousness so that we all develop our own consciousness again. So it's really, yeah, it's an interesting show, and I hope there's a season two,
Yeah.
but because they kind of left it open.
Cool.
But yeah, it's an interesting thought. So, and that comes down to your chip in the head.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that may wrap us up. We
I
invite
believe.
people to, if you have any feedback about AI, covers, generation, what you use, the way you want to use AI, the way you think you use AI. Obviously, it's on everybody's mind.
Yes.
My favorite quote these days is from Scott Galloway, and he's like, at first we thought AI was Luke Skywalker, and now it's Darth Vader, right? So it's changed. But I do have a hook for this week. It's a little deep. It's a little heavy.
Okay.
But it came to me earlier in the week when I was having trouble writing, um, and it's about self doubt. Do you get it? And what do you do about it? So we're gonna dive into a very heavy topic in
Yeah.
2 weeks,
All right.
and I have my thing about edit 5 chapters. So I'm going to try and
Excellent.
stop self doubt and move on.
And I'm in continue on, get the stuff through. Yeah, I think I made the mistake last time of saying that I might have a manuscript ready next month.
Oh yeah, I knew that wasn't true, but I let you go with it.
uh, the best laid plans. Talk about fantasy writing.
Yeah,
There we go.
the best laid plans of mice and men. Well,
Oh,
the mice are probably writing faster. How about that?
yeah, you got it. All right,
Cheers.
man. Ciao.